Okay, so the other day I was listening to a conversation between a few friends of mine, and they're Korean. And recently, North Korea, on the 23rd of this month, they launched an artillery strike against a South Korean island, which they consider as their own. It's called Yeonpyeong, and they killed 4 people, 2 South Korean Marines and 2 civilians. And my friends were pretty worked up about it. So I'm wondering why. And basically, I did a little research into it, and I found out that for the past 10, 15 years, North Korea has been continuously provoking the South with constant artillery strikes, infantry forays, and basically the South Korean people have kind of had enough of it. And basically, today I'm going to tell you why we need to take out North Korea, why a war with them would be justified, the best way to conduct it, and how the world will be better off without it in the future. So, first I'm going to tell you how North Korea is dangerous. First of all, they've got this vast, huge potential to wreak havoc on the international stage. Recently, they allowed nuclear inspectors to take a tour of their brand spanking new nuclear facility, and the inspectors came away, quote, stunned by what they saw, because all the money that the North makes, what little of it there is, they don't spend it on civilian needs, they spend it all on military. Kim Jong-il has a military-first policy, so all their money has gone to a brand new nuclear facility, and it's reported by various military defectors that they already have, at the very least, 2 nuclear bombs. Now, all they need to do is work on a better delivery system. Their Taibodong missiles are sufficient to attack North Korea and Japan, but not enough, just barely enough to hit Hawaii or Alaska, or even here in California. What makes them dangerous is that they are proliferators of nuclear technology. That is, they spread it around to countries where it's not exactly the most comforting idea of having countries like Iran and Burma having nuclear weapons. North Korea works very closely with them on military matters. Another thing is they're also a potential market for terrorists. Terrorists are very well funded, and they can go to North Korea to buy, say, a dirty bomb or even a conventional weapon. And North Korea, they don't discriminate. They'll sell to whoever has the money. Also, South Korea and Japan would be their first targets. The U.S. is primarily a second target if they can hit it. And in the event of such a nuclear attack, it would cause economic havoc on international markets, because investors would pull out, foreign investment would just drop like nothing, and the whole continent, Asia, would go into chaos, and that has a ripple effect into Europe and the Americas, because all the economies are linked. In the past, it was thought that North Korea was a conventional military threat, but now the thinking is that they're a nuclear one. And one of their primary defectors, Park Gap-dong, he was the former chief of the European section for propaganda. He's urging everyone to take North Korea out now, because he has been in meetings with military officials. They do plan to launch a nuclear attack once they have the sufficient resources. Now, how do we take them out? I'm going to talk to you about the ideal method. The outbreak of war should be strictly left to the Koreas. It's a regional conflict, and we really don't have any right to start a war. But in the event that the war does break out, here's what we should do. But first, before a war breaking out, we should be rebuilding the economy, I think. We should pull out of the Middle East, because we're too stretched thin. The Middle East is a lost cause. We should give our army a rest, kind of rebuild a bit, and then, yeah, once the war breaks out, however, we should aid the South without precondition, and we should also bring in NATO, because they'll bolster our forces, and together with our army, with the South Korean army and NATO, is a very, very effective force, because the North Korean army, although it's huge, it has probably the third or fourth largest standing army in the world. Their equipment is so outdated. It is like 1950s Soviet equipment, and their army is just malnourished and poorly trained. Okay, as for Japan, Japan's hamstrung by a constitution that forbids war, but they would be helpful in intelligence work and probably for stationing our military. Now, one thing we need to know about the North Korean army is that they are ruthless, and for all their lives they've been fed propaganda about the West, which is us. We are imperialist scum, as they call us. The South Koreans are imperialist puppets, and the Japanese, well, they're just racially subhuman to them. And in the event of a war, military defectors have said that their goal in war is to inflict as much damage as possible. And taking that into consideration, I think that we should be equally as ruthless, since they disregard international war laws regulating war. We should make a few exceptions as well. Okay, so first of all, let them use nuclear weapons first, because using nukes first kind of puts us on a moral disadvantage. But conventionally speaking, we should start off with a massive aerial bombardment campaign. Take out military structures first, like barracks, missile facilities, all that stuff. Secondary targets would be civilian targets, cause so much damage. Embark on a new shock and awe campaign to cause so much damage that the populace will be so demoralized that they won't really want to fight. Second step, which is equally as important, is to work with NATO and the South Koreans to secure nuclear facilities. The U.S., South Korea, and NATO regularly conduct training exercises to secure nuclear facilities, so they kind of know what they're doing. And reports are that North Korean facilities are, although well guarded, they don't have the adequate defenses to repel an invasion by better equipped forces like us. Now, last step is to ramp up this massive propaganda effort to demoralize the North Korean populace, because after seeing the damage that we can inflict, they'll already be their will to fight will be really shot. But if we openly encourage them to incite a guerrilla rebellion against Kim Jong-il and his regime, we would essentially win the war. Because a lot of North Koreans, they won't say it out loud, but reports are that they are increasingly disillusioned with the situation over there. Like, if given the opportunity, they will assist in overthrowing Kim Jong-il. As for Kim Jong-il and his son, his heir-to-be Kim Jong-un, whoever's in power, we should take the North Korean leadership, if alive. If they die, no big deal, but we should take them, if alive, to South Korea for trial, where they'll eventually be hanged. Now, China's a huge factor in all this. The thing with China is they're also kind of annoyed with North Korea, and given their recent growth in all areas, economic, cultural, and military, a war on this scale would be bad for them, and I think that the Chinese leadership is actually smart enough to realize that. If they're not, however, there should be a major concerted diplomatic push to drive that point home. Be like, hey, this war would be bad for you, and in the end we can actually give China some concessions. That would tie into what we do with North Korea after defeating them conventionally. end game involved, well, the end game, the short-term benefits, the short-term costs of the war are going to be enormous in all aspects, but the long-term benefits are eventually going to pay for themselves because you'll have a stable region without a crazy James Bond villain running the place. North Korea, it can follow one of three paths. The first, you can partition the North between China and South Korea. That's giving China a concession. Just be like, hey, take this strip of land. It can be officially a part of China now. It's yours. Just, stay out of whatever's going on. And the Chinese actually want some of that land because there are resources in North Korea which the North is not exploiting at the moment, and China would like, it's in their best interest to get those resources like iron ore and